Attention, please. The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Let's go, man. Happy Brainstorming Wednesday. We're back again for another mob brainstorming session. You already know how it go, man. Go ahead and blow up that chat. We got a lot of things to talk about, man. It seems like these weeks. It's not like I say this every week, man. These weeks just flying past. We already in the second quarter. Um, and for those of you that's tapping in, that's it's our first time, you already know how it goes, man. This is the mob brainstorming session where we pretty much bring together different entrepreneurs, different community leaders, different industry experts, and we exchange ideas, develop strategies, talk about different real world business challenges. Really linking you guys and connecting with different people that's really out here moving and shaking, and giving you guys a chance to hear some real live advice and some real live strategies and some real life situations. At the end of the day, I think that's what it's all about, man. Bringing that real back, bringing making bringing showing the whole picture. Because I think a lot of people just show one side of being an entrepreneur, and it's a lot of things that we don't really get to talk about at the end of the day. So, it's always exciting to be able to bring these different topics to you guys, and give you guys a chance to chime in. Make sure you guys like, follow, and subscribe. And make sure you guys share this live, man. In fact, if you already tapped in real quick, throw them fire signs in the chat. We're about to have a super great brainstorming session today, man. We got a lot to talk about. We got another special guest for you guys. And yeah, man, I got an icebreaker question for you guys in a minute as well. So, again, if you already on the live, make sure you guys share the live real quick. I'm gonna give you a chance. Give you guys a chance. Share with a fellow entrepreneur, somebody that you know that's really about building. Because we want to make sure that we building with them, and really building with like-minded individuals at the end of the day. So make sure you guys share the live real quick. And real quick for today's icebreaker question, right? What is the best piece of financial advice you've ever received, and did you actually follow it? That's what I want to talk about. So if you already tapped in real quick, make sure you guys blow up that chat. I want to see our answers. I want to see our answers to the icebreaker question for the day. Um, and again, make sure you guys follow, subscribe, share, like some of our content. Make sure you guys also check out our website. We got a lot of information on there about our memberships, about our services, key features that come with different memberships, key benefits that you guys get to explore. Especially if you're building a business, man, if you're just starting, or if you're trying to scale a business that you already have and you just need some of these resources, some reliable resources, and a team, man. Make sure you guys check out the website today. We got a lot of different resources and services that you guys can take advantage of. Matter of fact, speaking of resources, man, make sure you guys check out our resource center as well, right on our home page at www.masterourbusiness.com. We have our Entrepreneurship Unleashed ebook on there for you guys. And we actually got a promo code for our mod members as well. Our mod members and affiliates can actually get the ebook for free. So make sure you guys tap in. We got some grants on there as well. Shout out to Skip. They've been doing some great things as far as helping entrepreneurs get funding. So far, they've funded over $1 million, man, and that's big. Especially when it comes to giving, really just giving money away. They on every single week consistently, every Tuesday and Friday. Really just giving out free money at the end of the day. So we can all use some extra capital at the end of the day, man. So make sure you guys hop on that, apply yourself. It's a lot of grants that we also post on our social media. So make sure you guys are following us on all of our social media sites. We love to post different tips and tricks and resources for you guys at the end of the day. Also, make sure you guys check out Mob TV, man. We got a lot of great content coming you guys' way. We got a lot of great content from over the years that's already posted on there. And make sure you guys download the Enterprise Theater channel on Roku TV. You can actually see a lot of the same content on there 24/7, man. And if you're somebody that actually want to put some content out there on Roku TV, whether you are a filmmaker, or if you just, if you got a podcast, if you got a commercial, anything like that, man, make sure you guys tap in with us. We would love to stream and get your content out there, man. We up to 6 million viewers right now, so make sure you guys tap in, man, and make sure you guys check out the Mob TV network on Roku TV as well, right on the Enterprise Theater channel. And if you need some help downloading the app, you can go onto our Mob TV landing page, and we actually got a video on there that'll actually show you how to download the app on your TV. And yeah, man, we going from there. Also, make sure you guys check out some of the upcoming events and activities that we have right on our landing page, on our event landing page. Of course, we got the Mob Brainstorming sessions every single Wednesday at 6. We got our Standing on Business webinar hosted by Mr. Fix It. We got our STEM workshop coming up, man. We got our Monday mantra. Shout out to Fee from Philosophy LLC. Shout out to Jasmine from Serenity Nail Polish, hosting the Entrepreneur One-on-One webinars. We got a lot going on this year, so we going hard. So if you've been tapping in with us, man, you've been getting a lot of gems. Shout out to everybody who's been, just hitting us up and letting us know, how much these brainstorming sessions mean to us, mean to them, and letting us know how much these webinars and different things that we've been doing mean to them. Especially, man, it's free. Like, why not take advantage of these resources? They free, at the end of the day. So we always like to give back to our community, but if you're looking to build a campaign, you're looking to get on board with the team, let's set up a call. Let's figure out, what resources you guys need, and let's figure out how we can actually help and provide some of these resources. Figure out what budget match, you guys' need, and then figure out how we can actually make it happen, man. It's the second quarter, springtime here, summertime here. It's really that time to go, to really, make sure you got everything, lined up, as possible. We just kicked off the year super crazy. Also, make sure you guys check out our virtual marketplace. We got a lot of merch on there. Actually, we gonna drop some new exclusive merch for you guys. So I really need to know what you guys looking to see, man. You guys looking to see some new shirts, some new hats, some new joggings, some what you guys need, the slides. You guys looking for some new shoe designs? Let us know in the chat, and DM us as well, man. If you catching this on the recap, let us know what you want to see in the virtual marketplace. And if you actually got a product that you actually want to sell, let us know as well, man. We're looking for some more. We always looking to share our resources and figure out how we can collab with some great people. So, speaking of collabs, man, also definitely make sure you guys check out our sponsor affiliates and our affiliate program. That's what it's all about, man. We spreading the knowledge. We want to make sure that we bringing in like-minded individuals. I'm pretty sure everybody knows somebody that own a business or is thinking about, starting a business. Yeah, let's tap in. Let's, get them on board. Let's figure out what resources they need. And I think that's the best part, about our whole platform. We get to share the resources. It's enough for all of us. As you guys can see, we plugged in with a lot of different, people from different industries, different backgrounds. Shout out to all of our members and affiliates. Shout out to our Tennessee members, our Georgia members, our people out there in New York, Cali, London, Africa. We got a few places, man, and we always looking to expand. So definitely let us know what city or state, what country we need to come to next as well. We always, we would love to, spread our programs around and make sure that we, tapping in with some good people as well. Speaking of good people, man, I got my guy on. We go way back, man. You know, it's been years now. It's crazy to say that because I remember when we first met, and you know, we've really been, you know, through so many different phases, and you know, and this is somebody that I know can really relate to, you know, the journey and, you know, us doing what we do as entrepreneurs. This is somebody that I know that really can understand what it's like to be a mover and a shaker, and an expert, in you know, in the industry, and somebody that, you know, I really respect in his industry, as well, because, you know, I actually seen this dude really move and shake some things, and it's always good to have people that know how to make it look easy, man. So this is somebody that I consider, that just make the game look so easy, man. Um, and you know, at the end of the day, man, this is just so beautiful to look back on all of the different things that we've done, and to see where we came and see where we at now, man. So I definitely wanted to, you know, I definitely think it was just divine time for us to connect, and you know, and really just connect on this platform and be able to drop some gems on you guys live, streaming all over the world, man. My boy Chad, like the country. What's going on, King? What's going on?
Man, I'm totally flattered by the introduction. I want to meet Chad. I'm looking around like, where is this guy? I hope he's here. Because he sounds like a pretty interesting individual for sure. You know, hey, you're an incredible person, Delano, man. It's been quite the journey. And again, I'm honored to be here and made so much ground to cover. There's really no bad place to start, and I want to take a moment to say this to everybody that's tuning in. Not only thank you for participating with this movement. There's so much knowledge being thrown out here from so many different directions. Everyone's an expert and everyone's a businessman and woman, and that leads me to the reason why I'm here is to check on you all. Is to truly tap in with you, and I want to know, how are you all? Are you okay out there, business women and men, throughout in this journey with so many laws and rules and so many different levels of advice. And I mean, it could be overwhelming. I mean, this entrepreneurial journey is certainly not for the weak in mind, the weak in spirit. Certainly, it takes a really healthy community to, what I would say, survive in any industry that you're in. I mean, you can go to college your entire life and find yourself in a business that you just want to have nothing to do with. So, just my whole point of being here is it's almost like a business health and wellness check. Everybody who's navigating through these interesting times economically, even spiritually, and that's something that's really important when it comes to entrepreneurship, is to making sure that you are a healthy person overall. I
Yes,
can
sir.
tell you all the most helpful things that you should do and give you all the most, I would say, hands-on recommendations on where to go and how to pull things off. But if you are emotionally unstable, I'm not sure if it's going to actually resonate. So, take that time to make sure you check in with yourself out there, and really be honest with yourself and ask yourself quite often, are you okay? Because you matter. Because without you being healthy, neither is your business.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
be real.
Real quick, man, for the ones on the right, man, let them know who is Chad and what do you do? What's some of your expertise?
Wow. Simply put, man, I do everything. I know that's such a vague and probably general answer, but right now my niche is in consulting. I'm the troubleshooter. I'm the person you come to when you're trying to get your ball through the hoop. You got the air in your ball and you got the goal in sight. But what does it take to get through the hoop with the least amount of obstacles that's going to keep you out of trouble? That's when you make a friend like Chad. I do everything I can to get you as close to the rim as possible so you could dunk your own ball, so to speak.
I love that. I love that, man. I love that. I think a lot of us need that as well, you know, especially going through this journey. Like you said, it's a lot of, it's a lot of different things mentally, you know. I like to,
Sir,
I like to really, talk a lot about, accountability partners, and, you know, having people like that that can motivate you. Of course, we,
absolutely.
incorporate mentorship within our, within the mob. You know, we have different mentors and advisors. Actually, I just seen one of our advisors just tap in. Shout out to Mr. Fix It. Shout out my bro. What's going on? What's going on? he said health is wealth. Most definitely, health
Perfect.
is definitely.
Perfect.
And so yeah, man, and this is something that we've been talking about and touching on, a little bit, really every single week,
That's
touching
good to hear.
on what it really takes to, keep a state, really balance out, everything, and
Absolutely.
really just
Absolutely.
help yourself mentally. But give me some of your take on the mental aspect of where we are, in this entrepreneurial climate.
Certainly we all coming from different backgrounds when it comes to, I would say, whatever field that we would entertain when it comes to entrepreneurship. But to zoom in for myself at best, again, and I mean, I've dealt with and currently do pretty much every version of everything. And what I found is that to prioritize my self care first and not last is probably one of the most helpful things that I can share in the form of advice, or not even advice, but something that I would like to connect with other entrepreneurs or just people in general, you know, is to make sure that we really do prioritize our personal care, our self care, our mental health, and most certainly, when it comes to doing business and accountability partners and any type of partnership, let's be honest with ourselves and ask ourselves, are we a healthy partner to partner up with? That's in any relationship, let alone our business relationships. You follow me still?
Mm,
So, just to know, or to be as confident as we can be that you are a healthy partner to partner with, because the money comes last. Money, from what I found, is the byproduct of our decisions, the byproduct of our relationships, the byproducts of using these strategies individually and collectively, and that's how we get paid. Would you like to be? I mean, consider this: accumulating all the wealth of your desires, but you're not in mental, spiritual space to enjoy it. You're
right.
too stressed out and emotionally and mentally fatigued from troubleshooting all the time and not really allowing yourself time to rest and decompress. That version of stress is really not worth the money. Your health isn't worth this dollar bill. So, I mean, think about the way currency is right now. Anyways, it's all keystrokes and conversations. Let's be for real. So, we very rarely dealing with physical cash, so you're gonna stress yourself out and give yourself a head full of gray hairs before you even get paid. Make it make sense. Be healthy. I want you all healthy out there.
Make it
So
make sense. Make it make sense, man. Throw that in the chat real quick, man. Make it make sense.
that's all we can do is really make it make sense. Because I would like to connect with other people on just on any level. When it come to, certainly when it come to ways we can alleviate some of these what could be stresses off of each other back. Because mindsets are really real. I've been in countless positions where the ideas are great, the resources are here, but then we get egos thrown around and bad attitudes and poor mental spiritual health will sink a boat before it get a chance to float. So let's be, let's just be real. Are we really healthy? You know,
So, what would you say would be the first step? What's the solution, man? Because we hear us
it's
talking a lot about the problems in the community, and a lot of these things do stem from
solutions.
the
I love it.
mindset. But what's some of the solutions that you feel like we should implement in our communities to kind of move this thing along, take it to the next level?
Yeah, that's a pretty broad question, but I got a really specific answer. Being solution based comes with understanding that solutions are going to have to be a part of the evolution of what's going on, and being a part of these conversations and highlighting that over the glitz and the glam. I'm sure throughout this journey, Delano, you're so insightful, and I appreciate what you're doing with being able to point out all the dynamics that come with creating an entrepreneurship. Getting back on track when that comes with, again, staying solution based, is again being in that mindset. I mean, I can't drive that deep enough. It's making sure that that is a part of your team building conversations and being a part of our community building realities. It's easy to see the end goal, but how do we get there? Is being solution oriented for real. So one of the first things I do, again, it is really checking in with yourself. This is a self checkup from the neck up. Are you a solution oriented person? Are you organized? You got to get organized, organized, organized. And I can't scream that loud enough, especially for the people in the back. You know, uh, I mean, if you're not organized, of course, the side effects are inevitable. You don't want to. I mean, consider you making all the money that you can imagine, but then you got dishes piled up and laundry all over the place. You're living like a mess. You know, your home life is a very important aspect of your business life, and I can't stress that enough. With the personal choices that we make, our relationship choices. If your personal life is all over the place, so is your business. It's a real thing. A very
They always say, separate business from personal, but I always say business is personal.
It is personal. It is
Um,
personal. Your business relationship is probably one of the most intimate relationships that you can have. Your business can ultimately bring your family closer together or tear it apart. You
Definitely.
know, those examples are very real. You see it in the entertainment business all the time. Being on the road and traveling a lot, things along those lines. You're separate from your family, and if you don't have a close bond from the beginning, everything that you do as an entrepreneur will test that strength. Trust me,
Man,
it
trust me.
will test that strength.
For sure, for sure. That's a nothing but
Yes.
fact, man. So, what do take me back, man? What inspired you to really take that leap into entrepreneurship, and how did you know it was the right path for you?
Yeah, there's a couple honest answers. Is first, I don't like working for people, but even in entrepreneurship, you still have to work for people. You
Yeah,
know, having to run an entire staff, like literally, you work for your staff. It's just you don't have a staff that can't tell you what's going on, and you work together and work for them in some ways. You don't have a functioning business. You don't
def-
have a functioning team. It's
definitely.
just for real. But on the even more lighter side though, what led me into entrepreneurship is realizing that I was a solution based person without even realizing it. I found people coming to me and asking me questions that they just assume I had the answer to.
Mm,
And when we sit down and kind of like versions of these brainstorming sessions, they take my feedback and actually use it. I come to realize there was something there. Getting those feedback months and years later, like, man, I remember that conversation we had, even if it was indirectly applicable, getting that feedback. You're like, Chad, man, I really appreciate that in ways. I'm like, well, I may have even forgot about what we talked about. But
mhm.
to get that feedback and realize, it's something here and, really being honest with myself and say, hey, man, it will help to monetize that. And I come to realize through having a healthy support system around me that I'm an actual functioning consultant and didn't even know it. So I said, okay, let's make it stick.
No, I could definitely, really relate, to that. I think it's something that,
Yeah,
and I think it works out best that way when it just falls in your lap. When it's something that, you
yeah,
just come to realize, like, look, this is just something that is of value to people, and it ain't even me that's saying it.
for sure.
People's coming to me, telling me, and it was, pretty much the same journey because I never thought I'd be a consultant at all. But I think it's something great in somebody that can really help somebody else to,
That's right.
over that hump because we all need that extra that extra push over that hump sometimes. So I think it's always good to for us. I like to be that person that we didn't have at the end of the day.
For sure.
Man.
For
We
sure.
had our head a lot.
It's like going to those restaurants and you seeing ways that service can be better, and it's the journey of inspiration. It's to recognize, like, man, I really do have what it takes to make this work, and just having the heart and I would say the goal to just go for it. You know, I realize, even to be an entrepreneur, certainly in today's times, we got to be a little crazy. We really do, to take the reign and say, hey man, failure is not an option, you know, to in a lot of ways put up your own money and to be responsible enough to manage others' resources in form of investors and all the different layers that come with basically fueling your ship, if you will. It's like you have to be a little bit out there. Certainly when it's to stay innovative and to stay on that edge of evolving this. It's a special science for a special kind. It's certainly not for everybody. It's one thing to punch in the clock and have a schedule already laid out for you, but if you are undisciplined and unorganized on any level, you would throw off your entire ball for
Definitely,
sure.
definitely,
Sure. Yeah,
definitely.
be your own boss mentality. It sounds like a great conversation, but 24 hours a day, no days off is life. It's a lifestyle that's not for the weak, for
Most
sure.
definitely. Most definitely. So, what would you say really set you apart from, other people that's in your field, other experts in your field? What
Yeah.
really sets you apart?
Honestly, I know what sets me apart is, when it comes to perspective, is I realize that stress only creates more stress. I found every way possible, and always looking for new ways to literally decompress every potentially stressful opportunity. Because again, this is mindset, mindset, mindset. Our attitudes is what's going to make us and break us. And being able to capitalize on those moments to really take a deep breath and renegotiate our grips when it comes to team building, strategy building as best as possible. I'm not going to bore you with a long, elaborate answer, but that's the basics of the truth. Is really chilling. You know, that this is a stress free is the way I like to work. No drama, no fuss, no mess. Because as long as we're thinking under these hyperactive conditions, we're most likely going to add more confusion before we come up with a solution.
Most
You know,
definitely.
let's bring the drama down. Let's bring down the tension. Let's get organized. Being able to recognize when we have opportunities to regroup. That's certainly what I know for sure. From some of the feedback I've been given, and certainly through some of my references, like if things are a mess, I found myself to be and this is all surreal to me because I don't even answer these questions. I don't do this type of interview and things like that. But certainly come to realize that, like, yeah, if it's a good chance, if I didn't speak up and be that voice of reason when the chaos was starting to take over the opportunity, then yeah, yeah, it'd be some flat tires out here for sure,
Most definitely. Most
for sure.
definitely. I love that. I love that. So let's switch it up, man. This is month
That's
4.
that.
It's April. We like to, really dedicate each month to one of our modules. So, we're
Okay.
technically on module 4, which is financial literacy and budgeting. One of the
Uh,
most important modules, for in my opinion, and because
deal.
it's part of the big three, which is for the financial aspect of it. A lot of entrepreneurs have trouble financially. How do you approach budgeting for your business, and what strategies do you use to ensure financial stability?
When it comes to budgeting, when it comes to moving money around, one thing I learned about budgeting, and again, I like your word choices with the financial responsibility, is that you have to pay your business first. I wouldn't say have to, but it helps to make sure that you pay your business first. Because if your business is going to pay you, you want to make sure that your business is able to pay you as much as possible, right? And if you're not taking care of your business bills, how do you expect to accumulate the funds, right? So pay your bills, pay your business for sure. Pay
I
your
love,
business, the business will pay you.
I love that. I love that. I think a lot of people, you got to look at it like your baby, man. You gotta put
Yeah,
into it. You got to grow that seed.
absolutely.
Grow it out. And you really got to invest into it. It was something that somebody made a post on one of these platforms, and they was like, "Man, why do people have to charge for information and blah blah splee?" And and I get it. I get it. I think I used to be in that mindset as well at one point in my life, until I got into that person who you know was given the information, and then you find yourself giving the information to people that wasn't even using it.
Right. Yeah.
And I think
That now
sometimes
there.
you have to, and this is something that I brought to her attention, which is you have to make people invest in that information, or they won't use it.
Absolutely.
I've seen people
That is
pay
key.
for the info and still don't use it.
And still don't use it.
So,
You know.
at the end
Yeah.
of the day, you want to make sure that people is not wasting your time, because time is money at the end of the day. I
It
know
is.
we all, I'm all about community. That's why, we do take our time to, we do give away a lot of free gems. Like, our brainstorming sessions is totally free. And this is something I brought up to her too. Like, look, we'll have a host of free brainstorming session or a free webinar, or, a free seminar all day, giving out
Right.
free situations. But at the end of the day,
Right.
people value the stuff that we charge for a little bit more than that. A
Yeah.
lot of people that is valuable people don't even show up to the brainstorming sessions, live. To be honest with you, and not to even just to be totally real, but if we charge for a webinar or when we charge for an event or something like that, people show up because they like, oh, this is gonna be some type
That's
of
right.
value they charging. So I
That's
think
right.
at the end of the day, it's both sides of the coin. You kind of got to have discernment as well, to know like when to give out free information, who to give it to, because this is like you said earlier, this is not for everybody. So
No.
at the end of the day, everybody gotta put that skin in the game. Either you're gonna pay with money or you're gonna pay with time.
And time is money, so you
Time
got to
is
pay the
money.
cost. Make
You
it
gotta
make sense. Information is like fuel and food. From this end of the stick, it's like if I gave you a free sandwich, you most likely take a bite and throw it out. But if you paid that $10, $20 for it, you're gonna get a to go box and everything. You
you're
know what I'm
gonna
saying? It's
get
gonna be
that
lunch for later on.
you're gonna
Exactly.
savor every bite.
Every bite, you're gonna get your money's worth, and that's part of what I would say where we can transition into encouraging our fellow entrepreneurs and potential entrepreneurs to not be afraid or intimidated by that cost. But we do want to make sure that you get what you pay for, also.
Yes.
So I would not recommend 10 times out of 10. I do not recommend just going throwing money at anybody who say, "Hey, you do what I tell you to, and you will succeed." You got
Yes.
to have your mind right in the first place. Vet these people because the business of doing business is a real business. You know what I
Yes.
mean? It is a very, I mean, the more you're worth, the more vultures will show up. People want to sell you their service, and you need my product to make your business more efficient. Type of entities are very valuable and lucrative for a reason.
Yeah.
A lot of it is due to lack of organizations. We got QuickBooks and all kind of stuff like that to help you avoid these three-letter problems like TAX, ATF, and a couple other three letters that can get really real depending on the fields that you're dealing with. You know what I mean? IRS are not your friends. So, you can get organized. Just so you know, the more organized you are in the beginning, the more likely you are to have a successful, sustainable ecosystem. For sure.
Yeah. Man, and I'm glad
You're
you
gonna make new little friends.
I'm really glad you touched on that, man, because that was something we touched on last week when we touched on,
But
taxes and different things like that. We even touched on that this past Monday on the Entrepreneur One-on-One webinar hosted by Jasmine, owner of Serenity Nail Polish. Shout out to them out there in New York. That was a very important module that she touched on. Really took out the time, and that's something else. Again, that's another free webinar that you guys can take advantage of. And she's running through what tax forms to that you need, how to structure your business. She's going into detail on what entities is what is the EIN,
that's
breaking
right.
it down. And I think that's those are things that really don't get enough attention on because I mean, just to be real, man, we'd rather just see some ass shaking and some people fighting on the reality
Yeah,
show, most of us. And then we turn around and say, hey, well, why don't you give me this knowledge for free? And it's just like,
right.
because is you either going to use it or is you going to go out and you rather go pay the money, but you won't never say nothing
Right.
about going to pay for a section at a bar or pay for
Hmm.
them drinks at a bar.
Very
You'll
good point.
never, you
For
never
sure.
ask that question. You hear what I'm
For
saying?
sure.
So it's just like we really got a long way to go. And I'm tired of I don't want to
Mindset.
keep I don't want to keep playing off the facade like entrepreneur life is just so great. That's why we have these brainstorming sessions, touch on these topics,
Mhm.
touch on real topics, keep it raw because it's like at the end of the day, what is we really doing out here? A lot of us are not successful because we just not on our business. And some of it is not our fault, but at the end of the
Right.
day, the knowledge is out here. The knowledge is out here. If you don't want to take the time, to really go out there and study it, and you want somebody to give you shortcuts, and come and that's it's kind of rare. It's kind of asking a lot, especially for somebody like me, and not even for
Yeah.
somebody like me because I don't mind giving out the knowledge. Look what we're doing right now. You know what I'm saying? We're
That's
not
right.
getting paid for this. at the end of the day, I appreciate you for taking out the time. You're not getting paid for this time is money. But at the same time, we want to make sure that it's making sense with certain people. When I sit down in our
Absolutely.
consultations, and we want to make sure expectations is realistic too, man, for real.
Absolutely. And to chime on some of the things that you said, that was a mouth and an earful. Thank you, Jasmine, for making sure that our people are taking these three letters serious. The TAX. You want to learn as much as you can because it's real. And again, I can't be enough thankful for you, Delano, for opening up these type of platforms for free. You know what I mean? Because I certainly do value your time and brain space. It's been quite the journey, man. And you've been a stand up trooper through and through, and you're a rare kind, man. Because the cost of doing business, like you say, you got to pay the cost to be a boss. A lot of times it's associated with loss. And that's with unnecessary spending, expenses rather. Excuse me, and fumbling the ball when it comes to tax helps and being unorganized and stuff like that. It is a very, very real thing, y'all. And I'm sure you may have heard stories. You see what happened to a lot of our celebrity, our entertainment friends, if you will. It gets serious out there. These people want their paper. You know what I mean? And the
Yes,
more, and then, practice being thorough is something that I want to highlight when it comes to all of this. It's okay to make sure that you cross your I's and dotting your T's. The more you practice being thorough, and I promise you, it will save you in the long run. We don't want to get used to taking on the idea of cutting corners and shortcuts, because those shortcuts you try to take will be the ones that will cut you short, for
man.
sure. It all comes home. It is a very real thing. It happens to the best of us, man.
Every time,
So,
every time, every time. Man, real
yeah.
quick, man, that brings me back to the icebreaker question. If you tapped in with us, man, make sure you guys drop your answers right in the chat. What is the best piece of financial advice you ever received? And did you actually follow it, man?
Like
'Cause
it.
we get a lot of advice. Like I said, you might get a piece of advice and don't actually follow it. Chad, what's your take on this icebreaker question, man?
Man, best piece of financial advice I got was from my mother. She used to always tell me, "Don't take any wood nickels while I'm out here." It is. It's just like that.
Ooh.
She used to tell me, "Don't take no wood nickels while you out there." Yeah, I looked at her as crazy as I could when she first told me. But the more you develop, the more it makes sense. It's like, just don't go for the okie doke. Again, when it come to doing business, there are real, I would say, predators that exist out here, and that will sell you whatever it is that they think they ought to tell you. You know,
Yes.
in the name of doing business. You know what I mean? That will do everything they can to come up off of your hard work. That was another way of making sure that, again, my T's stay crossed and my I's stay dotted. you know Keep the wood nickels out of my coin jar for sure.
Hey
you know
man, I
Being
love
thorough.
that. Hey bro, so we were just
Yeah.
speaking on we was just speaking about dropping some new merch for the summer. I think
Okay.
it need to be a collaboration t-shirt,
Okay. I
hat
like it.
here, and I think we need to really collab on that. Put that on the put that on some put that on some merch. Get
Hey,
that out here in the streets. Spread that message. Spread mom's message, and I think we can make that work, man.
right. Hey,
Between
that sounds fun, man. I'm open to further discussion. See what we can do to make us have fun with it. I
yeah,
mean, like, what's the journey without really enjoying ourselves? Because we could be in these uptight meetings, and we think of business, we think about the button up and the suits, and man, all suits and ties aren't. It just. I want to make sure I stay positive, especially for aspiring entrepreneurs. I'm not trying to scare you out of chasing your dreams by a long shot. You have my direct support, my direct and indirect support on whatever decisions you want to make, if it makes sense or not. Just because it may or may not make sense to me, don't mean that's the right thing or the right or wrong thing for you to do. Don't be afraid to try, y'all. You know,
that,
I'm not the one to trick you out of your destiny by telling you what's a good idea or bad idea. In any regard, I don't have it all figured out, but I sure do know a lot. So I'm okay to learn something too. You know what I mean? Teach me a thing or two. Show me what I don't know.
yes sir,
And that's the only way for us all to grow. Is
yes sir. We
let's
always
be
talk
great
about
together.
being a student to the game, man. We got to remain a student to the game.
Absolutely,
Figure out different ways to keep pushing that bar at the end of the day, man. Keep pushing
most
it.
certainly.
Speaking of that, man, what's the most unconventional marketing strategy that has really worked best for your brand? How did you come up with
Actually, I never came up with it. I think it just started to develop itself. Word of mouth. And what I found when it comes to marketing strategy, it's like people are so fickle. And you could do everything right when it comes to marketing, and it may be all wrong for your product or your brand. It's something like you got to develop a relationship with, and it happens organically. You know what I mean? So it's almost like if you want to sell water, you gotta remind people about how thirsty they are. You know, and
it?
that's something that when you see it, it starts to reveal itself. So again, just like really being open to getting the feedback from your target audiences, especially if you're venturing off into what would be considered uncharted territory. It's a real relationship, like a call and response to, you put some stuff out there, then you get the feedback and see where it resonates and how it echoes through the community. Then you sharpen it from there. For
Definitely,
sure. It's just like surfing to me. You find your balance, stay on your board, and if you splash, you get up again, and you get back out there. That's
most
just
definitely,
the nature of the flow.
most
For
definitely,
sure. None
most
of this stuff is cut in stone, cut and dry. There are some things that work better than others, but what does growth look like if you stick to the same old, just that water type of process? To each his own.
most definitely, most definitely.
Yeah,
So I want to drop some more jewels, man. I want to
yeah,
get back
man.
to
I
the
like.
funding aspect of it. What advice would you give entrepreneurs seeking funding for the first time based on your own experience?
Well, based on my own experiences to get funding, I would say this was back to financial advice. Is to make sure you're doing the absolute best you can to manage the money that you have now or do not have now. Because believe me, if you're bad with $100, you're going to be even worse with 1,000.
Mm,
You know what I mean? If you're bad with 1,000, you are going to completely jack up 10,000. You know what I mean? Because I come from the arena where 10,000 is $1,000 10 times. That's not very much money, y'all. So get
mhm.
organized with what you have so you are in position to be able to manage the millions that you deserve out of whatever it is that you earn. If it's real. Get organized now. Because certainly, I'm sure throughout this journey, we've had plenty of conversations about funding and banks and the strategies and wordplay and stuff like that to convince people to invest in you, or in some cases, actually just donate or just give you some money. But if you're unorganized, why would they want to invest in you? How are they going to see their return on their investment? You know what I mean? You got to be tight with your numbers, or it helps certainly to be tight with your numbers. So get organized, organize, organize. If you can
Yeah,
manage $100, you can manage 1,000. It don't really work the other way around.
I love
No,
that. I love that. I love that. And
for
we've been
sure.
talking about organization a lot too, especially
That
when
is
it comes to this specific question. We always go back to having your structure, in order, having a system in order.
yeah, that is
Even
huge.
somebody needs something, to really invest in. And like you said,
Right.
we always looking for money, but it's like we not putting
Right.
ourselves in situations where when you invest in
Right.
you,
Right. Be like literally, Delano. It's like, when it come to being organized. If I know you're an organized person, you know, and you bring me an idea that I may not fully understand, I'm still very much more likely to work with you because I know your ethic. I know you type. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, well, I could learn on the way. This is my guy, and I truly do believe in his abilities because of how he moves, and he's organized. So, I mean, just it's something that really can't be underestimated. Like
now
you
you
really never know how far that organization will take you, for
Yeah,
sure.
you definitely done that, for sure. Even when we did Miami Art
Mhm.
Basel, you was down and you like, hey, I'm on board, and you was actually there. We did that campaign, had the ball. But yeah, man, I think sometimes
Right,
you gotta believe in the team, believe in the motion,
for sure.
and just play your part. Just believe in yourself enough to know that you got a part to play, and you gonna play it to the fullest, and the team gonna win.
I love it. I love it.
I'm gonna keep
And
you.
it's good stuff, man. I'm inspired. What else you got for me? I mean,
I don't want
I
to keep
really
you
do
all day,
appreciate it.
man. I got one more question for you, man. I know
That's
you got
that.
some things to do, man, but What's how do you, how has your mindset evolved as a leader, and what practices do you incorporate to maintain a positive spirit?
Yeah, okay, perfect. To maintain, again, to answer your question, simply put, that's like a 2, 3 part question for real. But I'm gonna get back to the point. As a leader, the empathy has been a really healthy, I would say, tool to stay close to because not everybody's going to have the best day every day. There's a certain degree of patience when it comes to being an observer and to being a strategist and being able to cultivate a healthy culture, especially when it comes to things that you can't necessarily do alone. Is being the leader that in a lot of ways to be able to be, I would say, the neutral ground if you can, you
Right.
know, to be able to be a listener and a speaker, to be able to be the teacher and the student because I have to learn from you. You have to teach me how to lead you. If I can't learn from you, I don't know how to what to assign to you. You know what I mean? I have to be able to learn how you move. I have to be able to learn that I need to tell you that the meeting starts at 5:30 when it's really 7:30 so you can be on time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's that's you have to learn your people, right? And again, there is a certain degree of patience when it comes to being able to execute with precision and not letting one's individual ego be the sole decision maker when it comes to a collective. Certainly, the bigger the team, the bigger the dream, right? And some people out there in La La Land. And how do you keep them on Earth? Of course, is to be able to keep a level playing field. Again, like being that neutral ground. Of course, policies and practices and leading by example is very important. So being healthy, being grounded, and staying as level as possible. Being able to speak clearly and effectively, and also with I would say with tact. You know, because that rule with an iron fist stuff. This is 2025. That don't go very far. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's ways to approach, like I say, all these different dynamics, man. But but none of it's really cut and dry. So you gotta be stern, but then sometimes you gotta know when to let your team figure out their thing. You know, allowing room for growth. I mean, it's such a beautiful experience, and that's why I know I'm built for this life. Because hey, man, everything that you asked me, the answers that I can give you now may or may not apply to the exact same scenarios tomorrow. You know, in
Definitely.
every way, it's being able to know that you have to be fluid. Like they say, you can't teach old dogs new tricks. Certainly, I've had some very, very wonderfully lucrative opportunities coming from partners and collaborations from those who are, I would say, like minded in that aspect. And in contrast, I've had some of the most counterproductive experiences with some of our older dogs that cannot wrap their head around, the new tricks so stuck in their ways, they literally bit every hand that tried to help them in any way. You know what I mean? And it's like it's a really sorry song to sing, if you will, but it is very real. You just don't let the grass grow beneath your feet, everybody, and really stay flexible, for sure. Whatever that means to you, you know,
Most definitely. Most definitely.
whatever that means to you,
Yes,
for
sir.
sure. Man,
So
I'm open for any feedback from anybody out there who got any questions they'd like to ask me directly or indirectly. I'm Chad like the country. I'm usually not too hard to catch up with. Sometimes I want to be found on purpose more than others. I mean, you have my social media, and this is my real name, and this is a real thing. I'm RG100 on what was it on TikTok. Usually not too hard to capture with. I'm everywhere at the same time, and if I don't get with you today, it may most likely be tomorrow. But I really do care about this journey and everybody involved, man. I really love life, and I really do. I want to see everybody succeed in everything they touch, but unfortunately, they just don't work like that. So if anything I could do to help and be a comrade on the journey, you got an idea you would like to bounce off the wall, I can make room as much as I can for any of you, especially if you're a part of this mastering our business. seminar and things along these lines. I mean, I'm here for it. I'm here in support of the movement.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, man. Give us a quick shout out, real
Absolutely.
quick, and let us real quick. Let them know where to find you again, and then give us a quick shout out.
Oh man, yeah. Well, you know how to find me here on Instagram, real good 247. It's a real thing and I'm good at it. So, real good 247. Chad like the country on Instagram. Um my email, you can find it probably on one of those. RG100 on TikTok. If you want to shoot me a message, I do the best I can to follow up with everybody in real time. I want to give a shout out to Mars Master Flooring, one of my favorite projects I'm working on right now. Man, shout out to you, shout out to Exclusive Model Magazine, and everybody out there who've been participating and truly putting these jewels to use because hey man, you can't say that real help isn't out here if you're not listening and paying attention. There's people out here who really have your best interests in mind. Everybody's not out to get you, but there's always a bigger picture. So, keep your eyes on your prizes out there. And shout out to the Greasy Donkey. Keep it greasy. You know what I mean? It's the Be Cool, Be Bold movement. We here to do whatever we want to and make it look good. And shoot,
Got to shout the mob out.
yeah, yeah, definitely. That's what I say. Oh, yeah, I've been giving it to the mob, but I got one more to it. You know what I'm saying? And but being, master your business, everybody. Shout out to the mob and all the participants for real. Um, Man, I could go on and on like I'm about to drop a mixtape, and you know, but yeah, yeah.
Yes,
I think that's it for right now. That could be a whole nother episode
yes,
if I
sir.
keep going for sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. I appreciate you, man, hopping on again once again. Everything that you've been doing for sure.
Be available to be able to help, man, because it's a lot happening fast. And again, if anybody out there has any questions they'd like to ask, anything about, follow up with, after they digest some of this conversation, they feel free to reach out, and you never know what might happen. Always looking to connect with healthy minded, solid spirited people. I, I I've had some very, very successful relationships with doing business with people that don't require, exaggerated contracts and upfront fees and stuff like that because somebody got to water these seeds, you know. And again, I know how to protect our investments. So, hey, whatever they can bring me a good idea, give me the pieces, I'll make the puzzle. That's what we do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. I appreciate you again. Before we go, man, I want to give the people a few minutes to ask any questions or concerns that they may have. Drop them fire signs in the chat if you rock on my chat, like the country. And man, I want to leave you guys with a assignment as well. Of course, it's module 4, month 4, financial literacy and budgeting. Um, Here's the assignment for this month. I want you guys to create a 30-day budget tracker, right? Track and categorize your personal or your business spending for a month. Analyze patterns and consider ways to optimize your budget. Reflect on where you're seeing opportunities to improve your financial habits at the end of the day. So, again, I want you guys to create a 30-day budget tracker. And hey, if you feel free to send it to us, DM it to us if you want us to check it out, give you some feedback. We'd love to see you guys' assignment. And again, man, these assignments that I give you guys, this is for you at the end of the day. You can do it, you don't have to. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that you guys are staying in that mindset and make sure that you guys are working on just mastering your business at the end of the day. So again, man, I appreciate every single one of you guys that tapped in live. And everybody that's gonna tap in on the recap, man. Shout out to all of our members, affiliates, associates. Shout out to Chad like the country, man, for coming through, man, taking out some time to drop some jewels, man. Yes, sir. Until next time, I'll see you guys later. Yes, sir.